Hi, my name is Mani Chopra and welcome to another episode of Passion for Property. And my guests today are a bunch of cool guys. But apart from that, they love property. They invest in property with a purpose. They are passionate about supported living and providing an education in that platform space, and one's a semi-professional golfer as well. So please welcome Alex Baker and Max Rayner.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Really excited, aren't we?
Great introduction. You've had some amazing speakers on this, and we're very excited to be part of it now.
Absolutely. So it looks like you've just come out of school to me. What really have you been doing for the last 15 years or so? What was life like?
What haven't we done? What haven't we done? We've been, well, I guess if you want to know.
We start from the beginning?
Yes, let's start from, how did it all start with the whole property world?
Well,
maybe slightly before that as well.
Yeah. Well, we can go way longer, further than that, back than that. Yeah.
We've known each other since we were 5, so
that's sweet.
we can do an hour on that if you want.
Yeah. So we just do that. So we've known each other since we were 5, went to the same primary school, secondary school, went to different sixth forms, but then we both dropped out because we were too bothered about going out drinking and chatting up girls and stuff like that. So we ended up going to the same college. So our lives have pretty much been aligned.
Followed whom?
It was the college was
it just worked out that way, didn't it? Yeah. Our lives have just been destined to be together.
We
Yeah,
always find each other again.
that's it.
Oh, and then what? Just like, so you were in college together, and at that point, did you guys talk about work? Or?
Well, what happened really, and I guess it's part of why our company's called Stuart Clinton Property. So when I was 16, my dad passed away, and he wasn't with my mum at that point in life. So he was a single dad and didn't have a will. So everything that he owned went to me and my sister. So I became an accidental landlord at 16. Obviously, officially, you can't be. It was like held for me until I was until I was 18. But essentially, me and my sister did my dad's house up and rented it out when we were 16. And then when we were 18, we had a little bit of spare change. My dad wasn't wealthy by any shape or means, so we had a little bit of spare change and we bought a second one on the same road. So by the time I was 18, I had 2 properties that I rented out with my sister. And that was our first sort of exposure to property, passive income, all that sort of stuff. That was around 2008, 2009. So just after the crash, actually, we got into it and didn't really think much of it. Just had these rentals, and then I decided, you know what, off the back of dad and that, I didn't want to go to uni. When you're a young guy and something like that happens, you're a bit like, what do I do?
You're shaking up, right?
I went and became a ski instructor and lived in Switzerland and didn't really think much of it. And then, about sort of 22, 23, I came back. And then, that's when Alex's side of the story kicks in.
Yeah, so similarly to Max, my dad passed away when I was 22. Very similarly to Max, my mum and dad weren't together. My dad didn't have much, but what he did have got passed down to me and my sister. While Max had been off being a ski instructor in Switzerland and living the life of Riley, I was in an office from 9 till 5 working, and I was like, this life doesn't look too bad. How are you pulling this off? And he was like, it's all, because the property income kind of props me up so I can...
By the way, they were just buy to lets, but it at that age, it was living at home. It was quite a decent...
£300-500 a month.
This is when buy to lets were making good money as well. Yeah, not the same as now. But yeah, for a young 20-year-old, 22-year-old person, any extra few hundred quid is nice, right? And he was like, yeah, well, it's a property income. And I was like, all right, well, can you teach me how to do it? He was like, to be honest, I don't really know. It just kind of happens. They're just there.
I've got a clue, man.
Yeah.
That's accidental.
Yeah. He's like, we just kind of, we got them and that's it. They just do their thing.
I remember the conversation because we sat there and I went, look, it's great. I was like, by the time I was 16 to 22, I was like, the properties we bought are now... to be fair, after that 2008, 2000, they almost doubled. Yeah. Not doubled, but they went up a hell of a lot.
I think about 2010, 11, they started then going up.
Home counties area, they shot up. Yeah. So I was like, Alex, I've just got them. I don't really know how I've done it, but we've rented them out. The rent's coming in. They've gone up in value. It's good. We need to look at it. And then when he said, well, how do you do it? I was like, I would not be able to tell you. I haven't got a clue. But we knew that it was good. And I think at that age, I had the confidence, I had the proof in the pudding. I just knew it worked. Yeah. So I was like, we have to do this properly. I'll be up for doing it with you.
I relate to that because that's exactly what happened to us. Because when I started, and it's like, we've got these couple of properties. We bought them as you do, with double income, no kids, all of that. And then you think, oh, wow, the property prices have gone up. The money is just, we've not done anything, Yeah. That was the light bulb moment, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, we decided we needed to do it professionally. So we went out and, did an education course and started cracking on and started doing HMOs.
Hang on a minute. So yeah, when we did that, we then decided to do it properly. So like these were just personal buy-to-lets. We then started the company, and it was fitting to call it Stuart Clinton Property. So my dad was Stuart, Alex's dad was Clinton. That's why it's called that. And we set that up as a legacy because we wouldn't have had the startup money to put in if our dads didn't pass. So it just felt like perfect to like honour their names and do that.
And also like a tribute to them as
Yeah,
well. Like it's going to remain in the name forever, basically.
Exactly.
Which is
that.
great, I think. It's a great little legacy for them, actually.
And it's been a big driver for us, and it's been a good compass for us in terms of what decisions we've made, which direction we've taken the business, which now has very much gone in a very social impact led kind of direction. So as I just mentioned, we did HMOs for a little while, and then about the pandemic around 2020, all we saw in the news was homeless crisis, mental health crisis, all of that kind of stuff going on. And we're kind of getting a little bit tired of HMOs by that point anyway.
Tired's like an understatement. Like we
exhausted.
Like we were exhausted and we hated it. And what we realised was, and we're happy to be open and honest about this, the only reason that we got into HMOs is because we learnt property properly, and then we realised we could create more money than we could get out of a buy-to-let. We solely did them for money.
Which is what most people do, right?
Which is what most people do. To get ourselves to a point of financial freedom, which we ended up getting quite quickly at quite a young age from just following the process. But we were exhausted and we hated it. And most of all, we started to resent our tenants. Now, any business that resents their tenants is not a good business. You need to put your clients first. So we really were like, what are we doing? We're spending so much money on the state of the art. And we did amazing HMOs. I mean, probably they won't be as good as the ones now because this was 5, 6, 7 years ago. But at the time, they were that top 5%, co-living, amazing, all singing, all dancing, to then 6 months later, someone doesn't pay rent, the tenant churns up high, the bills have gone up, someone's not opening their window, so there's mold everywhere, and it was just went on.
It's just relentless maintenance issues that keep coming. I mean, just when you think you're getting a break, another call and another call, and you're thinking, is this ever going to end?
And all we wanted to do was build the portfolio, but we were constantly, it just felt like we had a rope on our back and we were just being pulled back
against the tide, isn't it? You feel like you're swimming against the tide, basically.
As business owners, we are frustrated to look back. We like to put our all into something and then move to the next, and we felt like if we carried on doing that, we had to keep looking back, solving things and getting pulled back in.
So what did you do with the original HMOs then? Are they now...
We've now repurposed them into either support.
So let's talk about that as well then, and how. So you were hired landlords.
We've only done recently though, so they were the last ones to go, weren't they?
So to begin with, we saw what was going on in the news. COVID gave us a good time to kind of sit back and kind of take stock of our business and think, right, where are we? Where do we want to be? Are we going in the direction we want to go in? The answer was no. And how can we change that? So we decided that supported living and care was the direction to go.
We didn't know it was supported living and care at the time.
We didn't know, We basically went off of our own kind of experiences, and we've always been very open and honest about talking about what we kind of went through, losing our dads at a young age, particularly for a young man.
It's traumatic, isn't it?
It's difficult, at that kind of key age. We both had younger sisters. We felt like we had to be the man of the house, and that responsibility was on us, and that was all tough, and it all definitely had some mental health impacts on us, and still does. And we decided, what can we do to help people that have been through what we've been through and worse, and just started exploring it. And don't get me wrong, it took us a while to kind of break down the doors and figure out how it all works, how we could get into it, who we needed to speak to. But eventually we got there and started work on our first mental health care home, which was an 11 bedroom care home in Coventry, wasn't it?
So what was the property when you bought it?
It was a student HMO, big one.
So it's a retiring landlord or someone selling it. But it was in a bad condition?
It actually wasn't in too bad a condition, was it?
It needed a full refurb. It needed a full back to brick, but it was okay. Just tired because the people before it had run it as a B&B, so they didn't fully convert it. So it was still like, it still had like that old school like 60s, 70s like B&B like lounge dining area.
Oh, it had a bar in it as well, didn't it? Yeah.
And then it was just like in a perfect location for students, but they couldn't fill it. especially over COVID. So
They were self-managing.
we decided, knowing nothing about supported living, not even knowing that this supported living industry existed, we got put in touch with a friend that was renting some of their properties to a care provider. We met them and we said, we've found this property, would that work for you? They went, yeah, all right. So we bought it for 700 grand, borrowed the money, managed to convince someone to lend to us.
700 grand, it's quite a lot of money actually.
And then just went for it, naively, not really knowing the outcome. And that was the best thing that we ever did.
Titans is a property education and collaborative platform, which is effectively a community of property professionals, investors, developers who like to come together, connect, engage, and help grow each other's businesses. Find out more, teamtitans.co.uk. Amazing. And this care provider that you met through someone else, what were they? Who were they housing? What were the tenants look
All
like?
mental health. So adults and mental health, yeah.
So when you say, does it mean like depression, ADHD, those sort of conditions? Or
Yeah, it varies, to be honest with you. So they have quite a wide array of residents, and I think that's actually their kind of superpower, is that they have some low needs people who are, you know, depression, anxiety, that kind of stuff. But then they have some more high needs people that are more further up the spectrum, talking about, I forget the names of them now, help me out, Max, with some of the needs of high needs as the people that they've got.
Well, it could
Like
be
split personality disorders,
psychosis,
schizophrenia, bipolar, all
drug
that.
addiction recovery, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So, but the benefit of what they do is actually, because they create a community, the people with lower needs end up kind of mentoring the people with higher needs.
And do they have
and it
like
works
care
really well.
resident?
24-hour care, yeah. So at the time, we didn't know the difference between supported living and residential care.
Yeah.
However, we learnt pretty quickly.
This was a residential
And this was a
care.
residential care home with 24-hour staff.
And supported, yeah, go on.
The penny drop moment for us was when we went to view all these care homes. They were crap. Like the condition of them was awful, and we were like, if we can bring our sort of interior design skills and project delivery skills for like what a high-end property in our eyes should look like and bring it to this space,
Yeah.
we'd blow them all out the park.
Yeah.
Because we'd run the numbers with the care provider, and we were like, well, that works because we're getting the same rent, if not more. So we can spend the same amount of money. So why isn't anyone else doing
That's
that?
what I was thinking. If you're saying that the numbers work,
Yeah.
why are people living in this horrible, drabby,
Great.
you know, those 60s carpets, red print, you know, like the printed carpets, and drab walls, magnolia, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
I
unfortunately,
don't understand that.
the answer is greed, really.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah.
So they just want to squeeze in more of the profit.
Historically, landlords have only given care and supported living the worst of their portfolio, when in reality, they need the best. They need purpose-built stuff. They need things that take into consideration the needs of the residents and give them the best opportunity at recovery, if that's something that
So these people, your tenants with the learning disabilities, they don't work.
No,
They are just
they don't
full-time care,
Yeah, so
being cared for by.
And that's a care home, whereas a supported living property is actually different. Although they fall under the same umbrella of supported living, care homes are people with live on site staff,
Residents.
24-hour care, whereas supported living would be for people that can wash, cook, clean and look after themselves, but they may need a certain hours of support per week to work or to learn some skills, or you know, whatever that may be, therapy, counselling, that sort of thing, finance, that sort of stuff. So essentially is in this care home, that's what once those people that have been rehabilitated, that's where their next steps would like.
So going back to the care home then, did you sign a lease then with the care provider, like a 5-year lease or
20 years.
with break clauses?
No
break clauses.
The first one, was there a break clause?
Oh yeah, I think we did.
The first one there was, but now we don't let them.
Wow.
Now we know our stuff.
Because the thing is, it's better valuation for you as well, right?
Although it is tricky because you can also see why they don't want to give a break clause as well. So you kind of have to like weigh it up. Like the industry is definitely pushing back on the longer leases, but they do typically, from the landlord's perspective, make it worthwhile, because if you're just going to offload a property, but if you're literally buying something specifically for that and spending a load
couple
of
of
money
hundred
on
grand, if not more,
easy, if not more, to get it to where they want to be, then you want to know that there's longevity in that.
Yeah. And in that lease as well, they have to 15-20 provide back the property to you in the same conditions.
Exactly.
So kind of, and So these leases that you're talking about, are they difficult to negotiate? What did you find with your first one? Was it easy, straightforward?
Depends who you're working with, I
Yeah,
think,
depends
doesn't
who
it?
you're working with. I mean, you've
But
got
you end
to
up with solicitors anyway. You agree the heads of terms with, let's say, your client,
Yeah.
and then solicitors kick in, don't
yeah,
they?
yeah, exactly. But that can be a ball ache because
That's what I mean.
what you need to. Heads of terms isn't really enough. You do need to go into the detail of the provider. Otherwise, you'll start going, oh, well, we didn't agree that. Because all these, and I think that's probably from the naive point, is if you just go into supported living, most landlords are going to want to go, all I want to know is rent break clause, annual uplift, and then they forget the rest.
Yeah.
And then that can bounce back and forwards for months because they're like, oh, well, I didn't even know that we had to think about that. And then you start sub-negotiating all these little points, which can take a while. So it is important to go into that detail of, any warranties, who's liable for what, the repair, the FRI section of it.
The structural fabric of the building, the maintenance side, the small and big maintenance, who's doing what. Exactly that, because that's what I'm finding. I've given 2 of my blocks of apartments to supported living providers, or we're currently going through negotiating the lease, clauses. And it's just frustrating because you agree something with the provider, and then when it comes to the legals, things go all, fall apart, and then your lawyer saying something else to you, and and you're like, oh my God, think of this, or you know what I mean?
Oh, of course, yeah. And then it just ends up costing us as the clients loads of money because the solicitor's just going back and forth for weeks and weeks on end, not getting anywhere. So yeah, it's important to negotiate those points because at the same time as well, if you want a long-term relationship with this provider, you don't want to get 2-3 years into an agreement, have a disagreement over something that should have been sorted in the lease or should have been discussed prior, and then the relationship breaks down, because we've seen that loads of times, not with ourselves personally, but with other people who have come to us saying, right, I'm partway through a lease, relationship's completely broken down, we've got no...
It's very easy to happen, actually. It's only over 1 or 2 things, which might be important to both sides of the party. You're thinking, we need to negotiate on this, right? And talk. So if we don't talk,
that's it. And that's what we teach people as well, because one of the biggest... things that you can get wrong in supported living is the lease. The lease is arguably more important than the property. I mean, you still need to give someone a suitable property, but the lease is what makes or breaks it.
I think the thing is the property. We're comfortable with the property, right? We know what we're doing. The lease is, like you have to agree it with someone else, right? So that's the thing.
But also the right lease structured in the right way, because what you also have to think about is not necessarily what do you want in that lease and what the provider wants in that lease, but what the banks want in that lease is actually
the value want in that lease.
Because the bank would just turn around and go, well, if that's in there, we're not lending, or So you need to you not only do you need to work with a provider, but you need to work with the banks, investors, and if you're looking to sell it on as well, the potential buyers who will have criteria of what they want to see in the lease. And if it's not industry standard, then it's
So going back to the same old, because we'll move on in a minute, but I just wanted to ask you one last question on this particular property, funding wise. I know you said you work with the private investor. Did you buy it all cash, or did you have bank?
So that one
it was a bridge, wasn't it?
It was investor put the equity in, actually loaned the equity in. We don't always do it like it very much depends on the deal now, but the investor loaned the equity in, and we bridged first charge with a bridging lender.
Right.
We then did the project. So investor paid for the works and the deposit.
Equity,
and the bridger paid for 70 or 75% of the...
Then you did the works, got the lease in place, then you refinance. And there are the specialist lenders for this sort of... You go to a specialist lender.
There's probably a good 7 or 8, maybe 9, 10 now that do it.
And what sort of... Do they do like a loan to value on it? Or how does the term loans work?
It very much depends. But there'll be 2 factors to look at. So no lender, like term lender, will lend over the value of the bricks and mortar. So that's where a lot of people get caught out. So you get an investment value of if you're doing it up north, could be double what the property's worth. They're still not going to lend you more than what the property's worth. Maybe
So they do just lend on bricks and mortar?
No, so they'll lend on the investment valuation.
But then the loan to value,
but it'll be capped at the bricks and mortar. So it very much depends. Down south, you'll get a higher loan to value because the bricks and mortar value tends to be closer to the investment value, whereas there can be disparity. So it does depend, but I would say typical LTVs would be between 50 and 60% of loan to value of the investment
value. Yeah. Okay.
Which could cap out at 70, 80%. of property values. I've heard, I know there's a couple of banks that will go higher. Actually, I do know that for a fact because we've done it. So, 90, you could probably stretch up to like 90, but their terms are like
of the bricks and mortar value. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, quite interesting actually. But then
Yeah.
they still do look at the lease and they still look at
Of course, covenant strength, they'll do due diligence on the tenant. So you need to have a good relationship with them. They're going to need their accounts, their profit and loss, their management information because they're assessing the strength of that business.
Yeah, even though they're lending to us,
yeah.
they're essentially lending against the provider.
Yes.
Because if the provider stops paying,
Yeah.
we stop paying.
Because the investment value is purely based on the provider and their
Exactly.
strength, right?
And these are things that people forget. They think they can just go to a care provider who's got one care home and and go and
No history.
get a commercial valuation off the back of that, and it's just not the case. And it's trying to
You could get it maybe at 12% yield or something like that, right? Like some very high
at which
yield.
point there's probably no point.
But then
Yeah.
you do bricks and mortar.
Mortar as well, yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
And it's kind of trying to educate people on this because there is a lot of misinformation out there as to, you can always get a commercial valuation, you can always do this and you can always do that.
It's
and it's
providers,
very rarely the case.
which is a very, very valid point. So done the first residential care home and now you think,
So actually we did that and then we bought another one a month later with the same provider. We said, do you want, like we were on a roll and we went, do you want another one? He went, yeah, all right. So we did two side by side.
amazing.
Both of them paid off. There was definitely some learning lessons. We definitely looked at each other at one point and went, not sure if we're going to make any money on this. But we didn't.
But in the way you mean, no, you would make money on the cash flow, wouldn't you? But you're talking about actually pulling money out.
Yeah. You'd get the cash flow, but it all looked tight. It all looked like we might have lost a bit, or like that. So
we basically had to have more investor funding in than we expected.
Yeah,
at a far higher rate. So our cash
to
flow
do
was
more
going down.
of the works, basically.
It was due to the valuation. We thought that we were going to get a yield that was different to the one that we actually got because we didn't know the industry well enough.
Exactly.
Basically.
It's your early days. Come on, you've got to learn from those mistakes.
And we had
right?
spoken to a few mortgage brokers who said that they knew what they were talking about, but actually didn't. But that comes down to us, and that's a learning, and that's something
I
that
think it comes down to you. You're learning as much as, someone, it's your second deal.
Yeah.
So what was this thing about the investment you mentioned? The yield was not...
Yeah, so we basically got a different yield to what we were expecting. So the whole way through that project, we were working on a certain yield.
We expected just a higher loan to value based on everything else.
And on the loan to value.
But I've been investing.
naivety.
Exactly. It's my 10th, 11th, whatever HMO I am. And we still get a knockdown on the yields.
Yeah.
We're expecting an 8% yield. The economy has changed. Business has changed. Commercial value.
Yeah.
You get 10% yield. You're thinking, oh, sugar. Because you had that 8% in mind, right?
Yeah.
So it happens to everyone. I wouldn't knock yourself
Exactly.
for that.
No, we've learned from it, haven't we?
No, and it was brilliant. And to be honest, it was the first time where the project started to change and we were getting a bit worried. We didn't care. If it was a HMO, we would have cared. But we both looked at each other and went, do you know what? These 11 guys that are about to move in with mental health issues that we ended
16
up
across the two projects, wasn't it? Yeah.
16 across two projects are literally getting life-changing support that we need in a property that, by the way, we kitted out like a high-end co-living space.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have known it was care home. You'd walk in and think, wow, and that was what we want to do with all of our care homes.
Yeah, and that's something we've always been very proud of is when, the shit has hit the fan, even halfway through a project, we've always delivered to the spec that was agreed originally.
Yeah.
We've never gone back to a provider and said, we're going to make less money, so we're actually going to have to cut back. It was always put the tenants and the residents first. What do they deserve? And if we don't get what we expected out of the deal, that's on us.
But that's ethical development. That's being ethical about it, right?
And the point of that is, and we didn't care. Like it was more important to us to deliver on what we'd agreed and see these people get the support that they need than our own pocket. And that was when we realised we were doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's one of the biggest things I'm coming on to in a minute, because everyone thinks, like, obviously supported living has gone mad, right? Renters' rights bill has pushed a lot more landlords, HMO landlords like yourselves, tired into that supported living space. And everyone thinks, wow, they can just see the ka-ching, right? Which is fine. Don't get me wrong. We all businesses at the end of the day, we all have to make a profit.
Of course.
No one's in here for a not profit. But how are you seeing this pan out in the real world in terms of this, this demand from landlords? And
to be honest with you, the people that are just in it for the money get shaken out. I wouldn't recommend anyone going to supported living solely for money. You'll get found out for one, and you'll be making, I believe, the wrong decision. Sometimes you have to take a hit to make sure it goes right, and that's about the impact led journey that we're trying to have, but they get shaken out because it's hard. It's one of the, in my opinion, for all the strategies that we've tried, the best strategy in property at the moment, or one of the best strategies in property, depending what you want, of course. However, it's probably the most difficult to get into. It's one of the most, it requires the most upfront work than any other property strategy, you know, because it isn't just you and the open market and some ASTs. It's you, the local authority, a registered provider, a care provider, housing benefit. You all have to come together as a team. You all have to agree. It takes longer to piece together. It's longer to build up those relationships. So most people see the money. We've got a company called the Supported Living Platform where we provide mentorship and consultancy around supported living. The majority of people that come into it for the money, I reckon, look around for a couple of months and then don't do it.
Because as you said, there's a lot of stakeholders involved. There's a lot of work. It's not just, oh, you're going to make double the profit of a HMO business and you don't have to do a single day of work again. The work, fair enough, is upfront. Once you get through that pain of that lease and that lease is agreed, then I think that's when you can start earning some money. But to get to that point, as you mentioned,
You have to work very hard for a long time with no payoff.
and patience, because I know I'm going through it right now.
Yeah.
It's
And the light at
dreadful.
the end of the tunnel is so small, isn't it? But you
And
just
at
gotta
any
keep
point in
going.
time, you could just, somebody could snap. It could be the care provider, it could be you, and then you're back to the drawing board again thinking,
You
you
can
know.
go 3 to 6 months down the line and
And it just all fall apart. Yeah.
No,
we've been there
absolutely. So I think having that personality as well, I think everyone's got to play to their own strengths. And, you know, coming back to that again with you guys, have you guys ever fallen out, if I may ask? And I know friendship is one thing, and I know working with my husband has been hardest thing
That's
that I've
even
done.
tougher, yeah.
It's very hard. So that's why we don't work together anymore. He's working on his passion, which is healthcare.
Yeah.
And I'm continuing our property journey and portfolio. But in terms of friendship, obviously slightly different dynamics. How does it work with you guys together? And you got complementary skills with you being...
I think we have very different skills. Well, to begin with, we had very different skills. And when we first started, we would both be involved in everything. We knew that we had different skills, but we would both be involved in everything so that we could kind of figure out what we were good at, what we liked, etc., etc. And we kind of found our own ways in the business. So Max is very good at like driving the business forward with direction. He's a great networker, brilliant at raising investment, like absolute visionary. And then I kind of sit behind a little bit more in the office with more procedures and structure of the business, and you know, making sure that everything's kind of staying together. But we get asked all the time, "Oh, do you guys ever fall out?" Honestly, never.
haven't.
We've never ever. Yeah,
weird.
I don't even think we need to.
You know what?
But it's because we both want the same thing.
Do you know why we don't fall out? It's because we both want the same thing. So we're both going to, we're aligned with our vision. And do you know what? Every year we kind of sit down and go, by the way, like outside of work, personally, these are my goals. Personally, these are your goals. I still want to do that. You still, oh, actually, Alex, I'm not looking to do that anymore, just so you know. I'm sort of looking over here. That's so important to do, because sometimes personal goals can change and then all of a sudden it upsets a business. So we kind of both know where we're both going personally as well as the business, but we're not blamers and we never have been. So and I've said this before, Alex can go out and find someone better than me at my job, and I can go out and find someone better than Alex at his job. We both know that. We're both learning and growing together. What we can't replace is the bond that we've got from years of trust and just being there for each other.
Yeah.
And there are days where I'm moody, there are days where he's moody, but we've never had a row. And if one person makes a mistake, we both go, right, what are we doing then?
Yeah.
It's not, you idiot, you fucking shouldn't have done that. We've never done that.
The
And that's why
blame
we
game,
don't
and
fall
that's
out.
you've made a very valid point. The blame and the power struggle. There's no power struggle,
No.
which I think is a big one in any.
There's no
partnership.
belittling. There's
like
no,
I'm not like you. You don't feel you're more superior. You know what I mean? Either way,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
make people fall out. We've never argued over a pound.
No,
Yeah.
never.
the trust as well, right? All of it. So all of the things that you talk, which is great. I mean, touch wood. And I think, you know, it's the twice the amount of energy and power that you guys can go and succeed with as well.
We're in a 50-50 partnership. So we split everything. So, and the reason that's important is I think some businesses can fall down because one person's like, well, to be fair, like you weren't on that call. I've brought in that bit of business, so I'm taking it. Whatever we bring in is split. Whether 1 year Alex has brought in 70% and I've brought in 30 or vice versa, it all comes back around. So we've never like tried to branch off and gone, well, I deserve a bit more of that because I did more of that. It's never, it's just
So when you're in the office slaving away and while he's playing golf, you're not resenting him, but he's bringing the business in, right?
I know.
He's probably talking to a potential investor.
Exactly. It always pays off. It always pays off. Yeah, exactly. And we.
But Alex is playing a lot of golf now.
I am. Yeah, I'm
Rugby,
more into it. Yeah.
So have you got a handicap as well now?
Yeah. It's. I won't say the number, but yeah, I've got one.
You get
Yeah.
it. Amazing. Well, I told you I'm just
I know,
started as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So very early days for me. I'm not even talking about handicap. That's nowhere in the seat right now, but I'm trying to lift the ball off the air right now.
Perfect. Hey,
Phase.
it's a start.
It's a great
You're
start.
playing tomorrow, actually, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Tomorrow.
Hopefully the weather's nice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So going back then, you've done your first 2 residential care homes. You've learned from those mistakes. But in the end, you ended up with over 20-year leases on both.
Yeah.
Yes.
And okay, you didn't bring out some money, but you paid your investors back,
Yep.
which is the most important thing. You're getting great cash flow. And now it's like they look after it for you and
Yeah.
kind of
No
moving
issues
on to the next
whatsoever.
things.
We've had a few rent increases as well, which are obviously compounding. So
Is it linked to inflation and all?
exactly, yeah. And we've
So
been quite high.
you're happy about the
Yeah,
inflation?
exactly. And it's inflation's awful, and we're like, yeah.
And also, what you've got to remember, which is really cool about care and supported living, is when the rent goes up, it will go up with inflation, which say it goes up 3% or 3.5% or whatever. Some leases are capped, so we've got some leases where they're uncapped. We've got leases where they're capped, but talk about that another day. But say inflation goes up at 3%, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, because all of our properties are stuck on term lending. So that 3%, the whole increase goes to us. So well, it's not like all of a sudden we have to pay the bank an extra 3%.
Yeah.
We're fixed,
You're
so
fixed.
it just goes bump, bump, bump. So the longer you keep it, the better it is for the cash flow of your business. And it actually is a business where for the first year or two, you're at your most vulnerable, and then it just goes dunk, dunk.
Yeah,
dunk,
we
dunk,
have to
dunk.
explain this to a lot of our kind of like mentorship and consultancy
Mentors,
clients.
yeah.
Is they look at the day one cash flow and they're like, oh, I thought it was going to be more than that. And we kind of have to remind them it's almost the opposite to a HMO,
Yeah.
where day one is the worst it's ever going to be.
Yeah, no,
So
you're
they
one, but HMO.
yeah.
Day one's the best.
Ever be.
HMO,
Yeah, HMO day one is the best. With us supported living in care, day one is the worst because your rent is the lowest it's going to be. And from that point on, there is no maintenance, there is no bills, there is nothing.
Is
So
that capital
it's
that you had to
only
spend
going to
up front to
increase.
get it to that point,
Exactly,
right?
and it's only going to increase. So we've got this spreadsheet that we give to all of our clients, and it kind of shows them the growth on like an average of inflation of, I don't know, 2-3%. Well, you know, they can tweak it to wherever they think it might be and say, right, in 5 years, this is going to be your rent. In 10 years, this is going to be your rent. In 15, 20. And then it opens their eyes and they're like, I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it.
But it's good you've given that information up front, because otherwise it's like, you said this. And
Yeah. No, it's amazing the amount of people that get disappointed. But yeah, it's getting that into their heads of like, once you've done the deal, you've signed the lease, you've handed it over, it's not your problem anymore.
And one last question on that space. You said term lending. Do you go into, because normally typically for HMOs and other, we go into a 5-year fix, for example. Ours, yours.
Yeah, the same. We've got 5-year fix, 6-year fix.
There's no like 10.
You can go into variables if you want. Yeah.
So there are.
So some banks will have different criteria. So because of the nature of the beast, they might want you on a repayment. Some of them, certainly to begin with, or some of them will give you like a couple of years interest free and then put you on a repayment. And the repayment term might be shorter than. But yeah, most of our terms are like. They're not like 30,
25,
30,
yeah, they're
they'll be
15.
like 15,
Yeah,
maybe 20.
that's commercial business terms. Yeah, I'm aware of that through something else we're doing.
And they'd never lend past the end of the lease anyway, because that doesn't really make much sense for them, does it?
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. So let's say someone like myself, and I've talked about this before, wants to come into the supported living space. Obviously, I can come and get educated from you guys because you do all the different levels, beginners, intermediate, whatever. How do I then start finding these care providers? Because you are probably doing it in your area, right? You go and reach out to. So if I'm say I'm doing it here in Slough, for example, would I then go and how do I reach out to the supported living providers? Do I ring up the councils, or who are the supported
Do you
living
know what?
providers?
You've got to be creative with it. There's so many different ways to skin a cat, but the difference is, you know, if you're not in supported living and you're in property, as long as you're a bit of a people person, you can talk. You can get hold of anyone, speak to anyone. A sourcing agent's always going to answer the phone. The estate agent will also always answer the phone. Like, all you've got to really do is find property, understand property, how to run the numbers, understand your target market, and then off you go. You're actually dealing with people that are extremely busy. care providers, registered providers, and the local authority. So not only are they extremely busy, but they're not. If as soon as you give them a call, they're not going to have much time to begin with. And if you don't quite understand it or speak their lingo or connect with them, it's a sort of a dead lead. It almost becomes like, people. I always think one of the hardest jobs to get started is recruitment. I just think that's relentless.
Yeah.
But it is a bit relentless. You've got to just work on thinking outside the box and creating genuine relationships with businesses that want to grow. So how to find them? You can speak to local authority, you can speak to registered providers, you can find them online, you can speak to care providers, you can find them online, you can speak to other landlords that know people. Referrals are always amazing. I always think with any business, a referral is probably the best lead that you can get, and just start finding out, where, I'm a landlord, I do these sorts of properties in this area, like, would that be of interest to you? Are you looking to grow? Like, what are you doing?
So reaching out directly to so the care providers are private people, registered providers are not-profit people, not-profit organization.
Non-profit, like
Non-profit,
CIC, those kind of things.
And so I think that's how you do it, is you do it in sort of simultaneously. You're looking for the property, or you need to look for the provider first.
It depends what you're trying to achieve. If you're really going for that kind of top end stuff that me and Max do, where you're sourcing bespoke, you're developing bespoke, and you're getting it on a long 20-year lease, realistically you want to be starting with the care provider, because they're going to direct you where they want their property,
what are
how
their
they want it
requirements?
to look like, exactly what are their requirements. So we would always say start with the care provider, but like Max said, you've got to think outside the box. We've got a client at the moment who was struggling to make meaningful conversations with care providers because we think he was just being a little bit too direct. We told him to go to the National Care Show in Birmingham, a big one at it's the NEC in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Told him go there because we've done it before when we first started out, and we said don't go to the stalls. This is a little golden nugget for all you guys watching. Don't go to the stalls. Go to the cafes and the bars, because that's where all of the care providers are taking a bit of a rest from walking around doing all their bits, and drum up conversation with people. He managed to get like 3 really strong leads from that, from meeting someone in person, having a good conversation. And it is just thinking outside the box. Where are the people that you want to meet? Where are they going to be? It's not the same as in property where you've got a pin in every town, a PIF in every town, meetings everywhere. It's not like that. So it is more difficult to find these people. But think outside the box and work hard. But I think it's like becoming a salesman. And luckily we've got Max on our team who's excellent. He's like a dog with a bone. He doesn't give up.
And you made a valid point. Like, can you imagine how many calls you're getting in a day from tired landlords thinking, I want to get my property to support living provider, and they're like,
the hardest thing.
How do you stand out? The lingo, as you said, because if you're going to ask naive questions, they just don't have the time for that. So getting educated is even more important, I think, in the care space than even just like for a HMO or any other strategy that you're looking at.
Exactly. The hardest thing is getting that base of contacts. That's probably the hardest barrier to entry of supported living, like people that you actually want to work with, because right now, and what we're seeing in the industry is it is that buzzword still. Everyone's like, oh, renters reform bill and all of this is coming in. HMOs are not as profitable as they used to be, and I'm getting tired. Right, I want this like hands-off armchair style of investing, which it can be. But what's happening now is that people are just getting in touch with providers and just launching properties that they've seen on Rightmove, and they don't understand. They're not just going to sit there and do that. They need a bit more of a gift wrapped option as to go right, and they need to trust that you can deliver it as well, because there's cost on their side up front to
as you said, the upfront costs are far more than a HMO, for example. So you have to have either a money or a very solid investment partner who's willing to back you up.
Also, their care providers or registered providers or local, all of their goals are about the end user. They're about the residents that are
providing the care.
As soon as you start going in hot and just trying to talk about money and
negotiating red
doesn't work.
It's a red flag. It's
100%, right? As you said, you guys are very passionate about the purpose as well. Not only is it all sounding quite difficult to do upfront, it's not something that someone can just stand up and just start doing it, because as you said, there's so many different stakeholders to manage. I think there's a lot more money needed as well upfront.
Yeah, there is on both sides, both the provider and the developer side.
And I think the biggest risk, as well as monetary, from the provider's perspective, is reputational as well. There are times where if you're working with a care provider and you're doing a development, they have to go to the commissioners, and they are usually trying to line up referrals for when the project is finished so that they can move people in quickly once they've got their CQC or Ofsted registrations, whatever that might be. If that developer then turns around and he's like, oh, actually, I'm going to sell the site, or I'm going to do this, or I'm not going to, give it to you anymore, they've then got to go back to the commissioner and say, sorry, those 10 people that you were lining up to come into our home, we can't do it anymore. That doesn't look great for them.
Yeah.
So you're holding, you're holding a lot of responsibility.
Reputation on
There's
the
got
side.
to be trust, but they've also got to be confident in you that you will deliver for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's how builds relationships like. So going back to, you've done the 2 care homes.
Yep.
What's next? Did you realize that this wasn't the model that you wanted to
Did
do?
another 2.
Oh, another 2 residential care again.
Yeah.
We quite like, well, we've done both, but we do quite like the residential care. But then after we had done a few mental health, we decided moving into more kind of severe needs.
Okay.
So we started doing a few learning disabilities.
So those are more mild, so like ADHD.
No, so the more severe needs, we're talking Down syndrome.
Or severe needs, right.
We're talking autism, that kind of stuff. So we went from doing big care homes for anywhere between 10 and maybe 14 people, down to smaller bungalows, smaller houses for
supported living.
Anywhere
Which
between
is the supported living, right.
1 and maybe 4.
So supported living in a nutshell for dummies is people with, like you said, either from mild to severe learning disabilities. And
They can be
but they can work on themselves, independent fairly, but they need help from now and then.
The easiest way to break it is don't think about their needs, just think about what it is. So a residential care home is 24-hour care with people that need help washing, cooking, cleaning, administering a medication, whatever it is, right? Supported living, they are living there by themselves, and a support worker will come to them on, it could be 2 hours a week, 4 hours a day,
whatever it is, depending on their needs.
And that will be commissioned by the local authority, and that person will have a care package of their own. So the difference is supported living, they live normally like we would, but they have some support in an environment that's assisted with care provided. There could be an office on site and it's monitored and stuff. And a care home is, it's more of a HMO setting where they all go out and have dinner in the dining room. And
they live, it's their main home, basically, in a residential care.
It's more rooms as opposed to your own apartment or bungalow house.
Supported living could be in studio flats or something like that.
It usually is.
Oh, it usually is, right.
Yeah.
And are you the provider of that care package, or are you working with another provider of that care package?
We work with providers.
So you always work with providers. You're the property people,
Yeah.
and you work with the care providers.
Yes, okay. We do have a new venture that we're working on at the moment for children's care, where we will be the provider. But for all of the adult stuff and all of the bigger stuff, we stay in our property lane.
So going back to the supported living before we move into the children's care, talk about the new model that you worked on. We've done the 4 care homes. Now you're moving on to this. How does that pan out? What did you guys end up doing?
So I think the biggest change from going from mental health into more of the severe learning disabilities, autism, is that when we were doing mental health care homes, you were designing the properties not generically, but generically for that need.
Yeah.
So we're big believers in environmental psychology. So particularly people with mental illness, they want to be waking up with the best chance of having a good day. So that's lots of natural light, lots of nice, light, warm tones. That is comfortable, soft furnishings, lots of plants, all of that nice stuff that is setting you off on the best foot
for your
for the
mental
day.
health, basically.
Now, with the more severe needs, we are designing for the individual person. So we're working with the care provider. We just did a bungalow over in Gloucester with 3 autistic guys are going to be living kind of together but separate. And we basically got like a list of what their kind of traits are, what their triggers are, and we had to design each
individual space
to suit that particular person, which we absolutely loved because it's real like kind of problem solving. Like it was really, really good fun. We enjoyed it massively. But I think that is the biggest difference, is that each individual person can have such different needs.
Yeah.
But because these are people, because they've got autism, it's not like mental health where you can recover.
Born with autism, right?
The likelihood is, the idea is that they move into this house and they live there for almost ever. Yeah, exactly. So the house has to be suited to their specific
to their
needs.
well-being, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and then going back, so then the planning requirements, just talking about it from a development angle, what sort of planning would you need for something like a supported living?
So residential care is C2.
The initial
has
ones
to
that
be
you did,
C2.
yeah.
A residential care home C2, supported living depends. So you know, you can run supported living in HMO.
C3.
You can run it in C3. You can run it in C4, C3B, sui generis. So it does actually depend.
Okay.
It really does.
So
yeah.
that's good. It's quite flexible in that way. You don't have to then have, it's planning not the sort of,
It's good and it's bad because each council has their own kind of theory on it. Personally, the way that I am anyway, I would prefer a black or white.
yeah.
Of like, it has to be this and it can't be that. So it can be a little bit difficult. You have to do a bit of investigating and speak to the care providers, local authority, you know, your planners, architects.
But typically you
like
look
that.
for a C3, like you look for a dwelling house or a
Yeah.
bungalow or something, and then work out what the requirement is for that council.
And then kind of go from there. Yeah.
So in fact, it goes back to my question about niching. So I think niching in an area might be even better for this sort of strategy, isn't it? Because then you know for that particular type of like supported
you follow these
council,
steps,
yeah, you follow the steps. This is what you need for the planning. This is what you need. And then you get to know more and more and get to, you know, it's a bit like HMO going back to that, you know, the area well, you know, the demand.
Exactly.
For example, some local authorities will take HMOs, others won't. So again, it depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're saying they're self-contained spaces. So do they actually have common areas in this one, the bungalow?
Yes, they do. However, they're more of their because of their such severe autism, they kind of have their own social areas.
Yeah.
If they want to, if the
And they
other
have a
person-
carer in each of them?
Yeah.
Full-time carers.
They don't live there, but they'll be on shift there.
Yeah. So they can kind of independently live for a bit, like maybe for 4 or 5 hours until a carer comes and looks.
Potentially, yeah. The thing with autism is it is quite up and down. There are good days and bad days, and don't get me wrong, we're not experts on this at all.
of
We
course
just build the houses,
You
so
just know the requirements.
we're still
and you work
we're
to
still
that.
learning. Yes.
No, but in this your bungalow,
What
do
we
they just come and go
understand-
then?
What we understand is it's very up and down.
What I meant is, what the question was, sorry if I didn't frame it correctly, was do you have to create spaces for the carers to live in as well?
No, not in
No.
this
Not in these.
They have an office, but they don't live there.
They don't live there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So you, so this is what you've been doing your remit right now. You've done a few of these projects, and has it been better for you in terms of just not just obviously from a personal perspective and making a social impact and making a difference in these people's lives, but also from a money perspective? Has it been a better proposition?
I think that from our experience, the returns are better than all the projects that we've done before.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
And what sort of leases again? Just 5 years or?
No, 20.
20.
Oh, again, back
Yeah,
to 20.
because remember, these autistic guys, they're generally living there for as long as possible.
So
you know,
if,
the rest-
for example, one person had to leave, then they would bring another autistic.
Yeah.
So these are, again, you're working with registered providers or
Yeah.
care providers.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is it a difference between the two types of businesses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Registered providers deal with the maintenance of the property and the placing of the tenancies,
Yeah.
and the care providers provide the care.
Also
Splits it.
It is.
Whereas in a care home, the care provider does all of it. The residents be placed by the local authority straight into that care
Yeah.
home. Whereas with supported living, the residents are on ASTs with the registered provider, and that is split off from the care provider. And it just gives that extra layer of
Protection,
word?
really, isn't it?
Protection,
Yeah.
So if the care provider failed, they can get another provider in. They can focus on also what they're best.
So your lease is with the registered provider then?
Yeah.
And then they have another lease
They'll
with
have-
the
they'll
care,
have a,
It's an FLA, isn't it?
agreement
Yeah.
with
with the care provider.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. There's a lot, again,
Moving
there's
parts,
so
right?
many different
Yeah,
people
yeah.
involved in this thing. So it is much more complicated than a regular HMO, to be
Yeah,
fair.
of course it is. And I wouldn't recommend just doing supported living straight away either, because there's a lot to it, and it is a lot to get your head around. But yeah, I think in our experience, I mean, I guess when going back to the money side, like it suits us and what we're trying to do because it brings consistent cash flow into our business. It's not up and down. So it allows us to focus on the growth of the business, on new projects. Can I say that our supported living projects return more than your HMOs? Of course not, because it's ultimately it's about buying right, and it's about
The number
Staying
of
on budget, yeah, staying on
So,
time, yeah.
and delivering the project on time. How much have you borrowed at? Have you funded it cash? Have you not? Have you leveraged? So I cannot tell you, and I'm sure there are loads of people with other strategy type properties out there that have higher returns. But for us, and from what we've seen and the way we do it and the way our model works, from using private investors and banks, we personally are getting higher returns than we were on our HMOs.
And we're very risk averse people. Like we love this strategy because once it's done, it's consistent, it's government backed, all that kind of stuff, and we don't really have to stress about it too much. You know, the original funds that we put into the business came from our dads. It wasn't loads, but it's all we got. You know, we didn't go out and buy a car or a watch or any of that sort of stuff. We said, no, we're going to put it into this business. And the idea of losing that money is it's personal. Yeah, it's not just cash. It's
for your dads.
Yeah, exactly. We almost feel like we're kind of letting them down a bit, which maybe sounds silly, but you know what I mean.
But no, it's not silly at all, because you know, you like you said, you've done this business in their name, so there is emotional connection with
so
that.
Don't get me wrong, maybe you can go out there and flip some properties and make more money quicker, but for us it's like we know that it's safe, our investors are happy, it's government backed, and for the next 20 years we're going to earn income. And for us that's enough, and we're going to do good with it as well.
Exactly.
People are going to live better lives, so
exactly,
checks all our boxes.
Absolutely. And then you mentioned something about the ASTs, if I may just ask. So the registered providers have these the highly learning difficulty people with ASTs.
It could be anyone. It could be any vulnerable person.
Any vulnerable person. And so will this be affected in your view? I'm not sure you looked into it yet with the new renters' rights bill, which has now become law.
Anything, you need to be aware of it, and I think you need to work with the registered provider on it, because ultimately if it's an AST, my understanding is the same rules will apply. There's nothing that I've seen so far, and obviously it's fresh, so we're still learning and we're not,
unless you go back and do a different kind of contract and negotiate a different kind of contract.
You can't. So it's just the way that it works. So with a care home it won't, because of how the
referrals are made.
Referrals are done. With supported living, it's not going to directly impact us on the lease, because at the end of the day we're going into it with an FRI lease to the registered provider. So directly no, but those rules will fall onto the registered provider in terms of, you know, not being able to get.
But also, I think from a social, their main purpose of the registered provider is to provide care for these vulnerable people, right? So I can't see it being. I think it's really different from really a private rental sector, isn't it? Because
100%. Here they'll work with them and they're getting care.
And autistic people, by the very nature, are not in their 100% being able to.
No, of course.
Behave like a regular. I guess.
For example, say it is somebody with low mental health needs who can operate pretty normally. If they are causing trouble with the other tenants, say they're in an apartment block of 8 flats, they're causing trouble with the other tenants, they're causing damage, the registered provider still has the right to ask them to leave. If they're not, behaving properly, they still can.
But then it's up to them to deal with it, as you said. Your connection is just that lease.
Yeah, no, of course. So it doesn't affect us directly.
Yeah, it doesn't.
However, it's important to be aware
of what
how
are the
it's
implications of
the
it.
registered providers and how that may potentially impact agreements and things like that.
Where it could is at the end of your lease term, I think. So
when it comes to renewing,
when you're supposed to get the property back, but then they've got tenants in there on ASTs, how that's handled is...
It'd be interesting to know about it, actually, isn't it? I suppose you probably need to have those conversations with the registered providers, basically.
But to be honest with you, all of our property projects we don't want back. So... we hope.
So 20-year leases,
we'll do another 20. Let's go. Yeah.
All right, you can't get them out. Brilliant. Let's renew. Come on, let's keep going.
Exactly.
But you need to be aware of it, and I think it's not people that go into supported living aren't. Everyone thinks, we'll just do that because the renters reform bill doesn't impact us. It will have an impact.
But also, if you look at it from a regular private landlord perspective, no landlords want to just kick the tenants out for the sake of kicking them out, right? There has to be a reason. Rent arrears, social disturbance, or they're not behaving well socially, they're ruining the fabric of the house, or whatever. It's got to be a reason. They want to sell, whatever it is. But for some reason, we've been blamed to be these greedy landlords or horrible landlords kicking people out of the fun of it. Who wants to? You're in it to make rent and make money out of it.
You've then got voids. Why
would you do that to yourself, right? Yeah. So I don't think non-business people don't quite get it, I think.
No, I don't think they do either.
Anyone that's doing property professionally is, you think that they're doing it they've got a plan, right?
Yeah.
So,
they've got a vision, they need to make profit. It is a business at the end of the day, right?
I don't want any of my properties back. I want all the tenants to stay in there and rent off me.
Absolutely.
And obviously what they have put in the bill is, which we didn't think they were at one point, is you can sell your property. So that's a good thing. If you want to, if your situation changes and you need to get the money out, you can.
But then if it falls out, then you have 12 months and you can't relet it.
Yes.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So let's not talk about that. But what I want to talk about more productive things here today. And so you've done your care, you've done your supported living, and I know you're moving on to some different stuff now. So what's going on right now with your business? I know you've
Yeah, we're really excited about it, aren't we?
We're going to be providers now, which is cool.
Yeah.
So we've set up Leverstock Children's Care, which is close to our hearts because me and Alex grew up in a place called Leverstock Green. So it's about our roots, and obviously because we're getting into children's care, we're coming in at the early stages of where people have unfortunately had to enter the care system. So it's all about roots for us, which is why we picked the name. And we are going to carry on doing state-of-the-art properties. It's like a bread and butter for us now, but we're now, instead of leasing the properties to someone else, we'll be leasing them to our other company, and we'll be...
And so you have started a new care entity,
Yeah.
which is the Leverstock Care. Children's care provider. You're actually going to become the provider.
Yeah, exactly.
So you will work directly with councils, presumably, who you will sign the contracts with the councils and then put them in your own homes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a big step.
It is a big step.
Big step.
Yeah, it's
And
exciting.
when you say it's all under 18s, presumably?
Yes.
And they all have come out of their families into the care sector, and you're housing those.
There's a lot of different reasons that children can go into care.
Is it social behavioural change mainly, or is it
disabilities and behavioural,
Yeah.
So we're registering the homes for both, and we will be kind of directed by our registered managers, whatever they specialise in, we'll allow them to take on.
So each property will have a registered manager.
Exactly.
They will then, is their role to liaise with the council and then...
So it's the role of the responsible individual, mainly to liaise with the council as well as
the RMs and the
but
commission.
the RMs will be part of that as well.
Yeah.
But the registered manager is really, as you said, the manager of that home. So if they have experience in dealing with children with learning disabilities, that's what we want to give them.
Right.
If they've got experience with behavioural, then those are the kids we want to give them. So we're not just going to sit there and be like, we're only doing.
You're not
this
doing
type
mix.
of
You're going
care.
to do either a type of
It's
care where
either or.
behavioural and learning disabilities. And you've already obviously been in touch with the council. You've already got these connections in place to get these contacts.
Yeah, we're almost there. We've got 2 properties under offer, subject to planning. We're expecting the planning to come in this week. It's Thursday. So
And
we'll
what
see.
planning do you need?
So we've done 2 applications for each property. So we've got 2 properties under offer. So we've gone in for a full C2 application, and we've also gone in for a lawful development certificate.
Right.
Some councils approve the lawful development certificate, some don't. We believe that the council we're working under do, because I've seen evidence of it. So we're expecting the LDC to hopefully come through this week. And then for the full planning application, we've got a committee meeting next month. So we're hoping that we'll get that through as well.
But would you maybe, if your council accepts LDCs, then you can house the children once the LDC has been signed off?
Exactly. The only reason we're going to carry on with the full C2 application is more for our kind of property value.
Yeah.
So when we go to refinance, it's,
You get a better
it's
value.
more solid. Yeah.
And how's this funding model going to be different from your previous ones?
We'll fund the properties exactly the same.
Okay. Bridge equity from a from a
although
loan.
it depends because we don't always bridge. So
well, it's tougher. Sorry to interrupt you there, mate. It's a lot more difficult with children's care. Well, actually, not necessarily with children's care, because we're running a brand new business.
Yeah.
We can't get lending from a bank, like term lending. So as a new business in care or
it's
sport,
got to be private for 2 years.
you have to have 2 years worth of
So
account.
it's 100%.
So there won't be a bridge or anything. There will
it's
be
100% private funded. For 2 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you're buying it with private funding.
Yeah.
You then spend money on doing it up as well. That's all private funding.
Yeah.
Then
we
you
cash flow the business.
Yeah. Then you basically get the children in.
Yeah.
It's all been fitted out. Everyone's moved in. The leases have started.
Yep.
Then you can't get a term loan because you're a new business.
We need it for 2 years.
So you have to. So the investors have to be in it for long term, basically.
Exactly.
But then you can always fund. You can always service their debt, right? Once
That's all part of the plan. So the property side, we know it. We lease it. We lease to other providers, so we know the numbers. We know where our budgets are. We know exactly that model. Just the new part is we've got to bankroll the business, obviously. So that's a new one.
Interesting adventure for us, isn't it? Yeah.
Bankrolling salaries without any assets to back.
Yeah.
So a quick tip for anyone looking for investors, apart from the golf course, because I think presumably all your investors come from the golf course.
They do.
Or
Yeah.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Skiing's a good.
Skiing.
Yeah.
But I think what's benefited us, particularly with the children's stuff, is because we have built up such a good reputation with our care providers, with our investors for always delivering. They understand the industry now. So for us, it's just we're doing the exact same. However, we're going to be delivering the care. And luckily, we've built up that kind of faith with them that they're like, we've got no problem with lending for 2 years and taking a little bit more risk.
Exciting. So what's the vision for the next 5-10 years? And maybe you got a number of children's care homes you want to do, or?
Yeah, we do. We want to hit 10 ideally, don't we?
10 within the next 3 to 5 years. That's a good goal.
Very ambitious. So 2 a year.
And we're going to we always do things in 2s anyway. Every project we do is we do 2. There's 2 of us. We can handle it. And we've always run 2 projects side by side for as long as I can remember. It's just how it's always happened. So we like it. We're comfortable with it. Get to 10 homes. We can continue with Stuart Clinton Property, so we'll still keep doing our supported living projects and all that sort of stuff.
Or will you still do supported living as well? Expand that one as well as in parallel you'll be doing?
We'll definitely do less of it because the children's home is our main focus. But if opportunities come up,
then of course,
because we've been doing it so long, I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but if it's a
autopilot,
project,
right?
if it's
know how to do it.
Exactly. If it's within our realms of capability, then hopefully it won't stress us out too much, but those are famous last words on any project, aren't they, really?
But I think it's quite impressive how you guys started out with a lot of, as I said, trauma in your lives, but also just taking it as it comes, but actually overachieved, I would say, in the last 10, 15 years. Definitely.
It feels, I always feel like an imposter, but people always say that, so I appreciate it. But I always feel like we're not very good at patting ourselves on the back and looking at what we've done. We just keep going forward. But I appreciate you saying that. I feel like I'm proud of us, but
You're
there's
saying
always
that,
something
but you're not always kind of feeling that because you're always kind of, what's next? But, I appreciate that. That's how I'm exactly the same. So I can quite understand where you're coming from.
Property's so slow that the progress always feels like it's just, year by year.
By the time you go out
to
celebrate, you don't even know what you're having a beer for.
But to be fair, we are ambitious people. Let's not discount that. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? We're ambitious not just for the money, and I don't think it's always. My friends always say to me, "You don't probably need to work," and I'm like, probably not, right?
What else did you do?
Well, what am I going to do? Have coffee and lunches every day? I think I'll get bored very quickly, right? So I think, I wish you guys well because I think you guys are going to be achieving so much more. Just last thing before you go, apart from the golf and the skiing, what else? I mean, in terms of your personal life, what else do you do in your spare time? What other hobbies are you guys?
Mainly sports, really, isn't it? We're quite sporty.
Yeah, you collect a lot of stamps.
And stamps.
And you collect coins, don't you? Yeah.
Coins is a big one.
No, we're only joking. Mainly sports, to be fair. Yeah, I play a bit of football. Big Arsenal fan for my sins. Apart from that, just normal people, just walk the dogs, go for coffee. Usual stuff, go to the gym. We're not that exciting people, actually.
Well, no, I think it's, you're just working hard, routine, doing a bit of, hobbing on the side.
Yeah, Max is getting married next year.
Yeah.
Ooh, wow. Is it summer 2026?
26,
Greece. I'm his best man.
So he's tying the... You are married?
I am married, yeah.
So,
I've already got the ring. He's my best man, So I'm currently planning his stag do.
Nice.
So if you've got any ideas, if you've got any suggestions for outfits for him, put it in the comments below.
Absolutely. Well, listen, good luck with your wedding. Good luck with this big, massive vision. I think you guys are going to be beating all your targets for sure and going to do really well. And we're excited to have you on board with Titans as well. I know we haven't talked about that much, but we're hoping to go on that journey with you. And last but not the least, your education. I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about that for a few minutes, just to say, because I know you're very passionate about your supported living education. How can people get in touch with you to reach out to you for that?
Sure. Yeah. So, like we've mentioned pretty much throughout this podcast, supported living's bloody hard. There are a lot of hurdles. There's a lot of red tape. And I think the reason we set up...
so don't email us, basically.
Don't bother. It's too difficult. The reason we set up the supported living platform is so that other people don't have to go through all of those struggles and make the mistakes that we made back then, so that they can come to us, get the advice, get introduced to the right people, and just find it easier. Me and Max want to help as many vulnerable people as possible, but we're only 2 guys. So the more people that we can bring into this sphere, teach them how to do it ethically and properly, the better. Our reach is going to be multiplied massively then, and that's why we've done it. So yeah, to get in touch with us about that, I feel like I should be looking into the camera doing like a
Supported
pitch.
living platform. We're going to meet them at the Titans events every month, which I'm
Exactly.
hoping to see them there. So guys, once again, massive thank you giving up your time today, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Manny.
I've
Thank you for
enjoyed
having
it.
us.
Thanks. Guys, if you enjoyed watching that, please do like, share, subscribe, and comment for regular property updates.